Welcome back to Between Two Great Lakes podcast. Today I'm actually between two great waterways, the Buffalo River and Cazenovia Creek, and I'm with two great coworkers. And we're sitting at Thomas F. Higgins Park to talk about the Buffalo Niagara Blueway. What's the Blueway, you might ask, if you haven't heard that term before? Well, let's get to it. We'll explain. First, if you both would like to introduce yourselves.
My name is Jean Biter, and I'm a Senior Program Manager at Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper.
That's good. My name is Catherine Winkler. I am a Senior Program Manager at Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper.
So, Jean, I'll start with you. Let's get to it. What's the Blueway?
Yeah, so the Buffalo Blueway is a system of public water access sites. So these public water access sites are where you could kayak, where you can fish, where you can birdwatch, where you can sit on a bench and just enjoy the scenery. So we're really creating this Buffalo Blueway network. Right now it's on the Buffalo River, but we have plans to extend it out beyond the Buffalo River and beyond the Outer Harbor. We are very fortunate that we've got in our region many spaces where you can access the water. And so we just want to kind of bring them all under the umbrella of the Buffalo Blueway.
Catherine, what led to this effort to establish the Blueway? Was there something missing in the area that necessitated the movement towards this plan? Why do we have a Blueway now?
Born and raised here. I went to school at Buff State and UB, and right out of grad school I started working with Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper 16 years ago. And then when you go even further back to my childhood days, there were no opportunities to recreate on the river. The waterways were seemingly okay until you realize that they were full of legacy contaminants. Buffalo was built around industry, and the waterways at that time were used as receptacles of their waste. Then we had to clean it up, right? So we were able to restore it, work with all of our great partners, and now the Buffalo River is thriving. We went from having zero fish in the river to now just a great population of native species using this river. The shorelines are full of mink and deer, and the birds are absolutely incredible around here. So it's completely different than it was even 25 years ago. I really worked for many years on the restoration of the Buffalo River, where we were looking to remove all the toxic substances from the bottom of the river. And then after that, we subsequently restored a lot of the habitat along the river. We went from seeing absolutely nobody recreating on the Buffalo River, either kayaking, fishing, just enjoying nature, to now it is almost too crowded sometimes in the summer, where people can't find parking and can't get their kayaks in the water. And that really led us to think, we really need to upgrade these public access sites. So Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper wrote a grant to the state to develop these public access sites, which was called Buffalo Blueway.
And there are a bunch of them now, right? I mean, all along the Buffalo River, we've got a variety of sites that people can visit, starting up from the headwaters all the way towards the end of the Buffalo River. And we're going to soon have sites even beyond the Buffalo River, and we'll talk about those in a moment. But first, for the original sites, Catherine, let's highlight some of them. We've got a bunch of these places where people can go walk around, watch birds, fish, get a kayak or canoe in the water. Let's start at the headwaters, the beginning of the Buffalo River. It's right at Harlem Road.
Yeah, so the DEC Harlem Road Fishing Access Site, which is actually located in the town of West Seneca, right where the Buffalo River splits into Buffalo Creek and Cayuga Creek. It's a great area up there for fishing. We are almost complete, and we will be doing a grand opening in April of 2026 for our newest Blueway site, which will include our second fully ADA accessible fishing pier on the Buffalo River. So we're super excited. The fishing access and access to the water at the site originally was pretty steep and not conducive.
It was challenging. I could see people out there where they would go and it was really nice, but they would have to go and almost you don't want them to slip and fall.
Yes, so we've definitely avoided any slippage at this point. We have an ADA concrete pathway that goes all the way from the parking lot all the way to the new ramp. We also installed a new concrete staircase with railings And we also upgraded the kayak launch area. In addition, just the shoreline. When we started working on this project, it was completely inundated with Japanese knotweed. We were able to treat the knotweed for a couple years before the project began. And the knotweed may not seem like a problem to most people. You know, they're just plants, but it had taken over completely, and you couldn't even see the shoreline anymore. You were inches from a steep cliff into the Buffalo River and not even knowing it. So we were able to pull back the shoreline, reduce a lot of the knotweed, and we're still working on getting rid of that, and also installing native vegetation. So overall, it's just going to be a new experience for a lot of people who have previously used that site, and also for people who've never been there.
I've been there several times. It's a great way to just start off and head down the river, and continuing on, we're going to make our way to Seneca Bluffs.
The next site that is under design that we're hoping to get to construction this year is Seneca Bluffs. Seneca Bluffs is a natural habitat park owned and operated by Erie County. It already has a lot of unique features in a really great area of South Buffalo, and we're going to be able to enhance that as well.
As noted, we're at Thomas F. Higgins Park. We'll highlight more of why we're here and what work has been done recently to fix up the place. Moving along, you'll hit Red Jacket.
Red Jacket Park is an Erie County owned and operated natural habitat park right in the city of Buffalo. It's a lovely little site, and through the Buffalo Blueway, we were able to create a really great access point for kayakers. There is also some nice walking trails. The bird diversity there is incredible. There's a wetland pond area where you're always going to see frogs and turtles. We were able to work with a local muralist who went in and painted a beautiful mural on an old abandoned rail track coming into the park. So there's just a lot of opportunities there, and you're also looking over the real industrial heritage of the Buffalo River from that access point, so you can see all of the green elevators and the railroad lines in the background.
And then if you're winding and weaving throughout the Buffalo River, passing some of the grain silos, you'll be at Mutual Riverfront Park, another great spot to walk along and there's a kayak and canoe access point. I've used that a bunch of times with the family. Good area. Keep going upstream. We've got Ohio Street.
Ohio Street was a giant Blueway project, as our most significant one to date. So Ohio Street is owned and operated by New York State Department of Environmental Conservation as a public fishing access site. The site was a former brownfield that had been cleaned up over the years. One thing that the Buffalo Blueway did that I'm super proud of is that we installed the first ADA accessible fishing pier along the Buffalo River. So we were able to install this cantilever deck system that allows people in wheelchairs or with any sort of mobility issues to go down there and fish. And it's just an absolutely incredible site for that. Every day you see people walking up to the park with their fishing poles. But also you have people pulling up in their cars with their kayaks, right? It's one of the best launching spots on the Buffalo River. You can head out towards the mouth of the river or then back up towards Higgins Park. And there's just so much to do there, and the Ohio Street corridor is so populated now that is the most focal site that we have, and we're incredibly proud of that one.
Last along the river is Buffalo Riverworks, another great spot to explore, walk around, hang out, get into the waterway with your paddlecraft of choice. And we also, not right on the river, but Wilkinson Point, another spot to explore, check out, and just see what the settings are, another Buffalo Blueway site. As mentioned, we are at Thomas F. Higgins Park. It's off Bailey Avenue, and it's this point of land looking west. It offers people around the community a spot to walk around, be close to the water. Jean, can you talk more about this location?
Yeah, so we are here at the beautiful Thomas Higgins Park, and we are at the confluence of the Buffalo River and Cazenovia Creek. And this is where they two come together, and then it flows to continue on as the Buffalo River. So this site is particularly interesting because when we get our big winter events, we get a lot of ice jams here in this area. And so this site in particular, as you can imagine, there is a lot of ice jamming that happens, a lot of backups. And so this site really takes the brunt of it. And so it's always been this public access site for folks to come. People love to come here and fish, just sort of look out at the water, kind of enjoy the scenery. But in the wintertime, it gets pretty banged up. So the work that we were doing here particularly, we were really focused on how can we make this area a little bit more resilient so that when we get these really serious winter storms, it's able to withstand those impacts.
It's really great now with the fishing pier, a better path to walk around, the benches people can sit on. There's the wetland area right in the middle to preserve that vegetation. And while I'm looking at it, one thing I noticed being in this spot right here, and then thinking of the other Blueway sites, there's this juxtaposition of, like, we're in an urban area, right? We also have this very peaceful and beautiful nature site. And that's kind of similar to a lot of the Blueway locations we have. You're in this mix of, you have nature around you, but then you also have a lot of development too.
Absolutely. So that's a really great way of describing the Buffalo River in its entirety. You have these very urban industrial spaces, and then in a very short period of time, you are out what feels like in the middle of nature. You're surrounded by some beautiful trees, you can hear the birds singing. Sometimes if you're lucky, you get to see some fish jumping out of the water. It really is this interesting space to be in where you've got both the urban and the nature at the same time. And so here is a great example of that. So we've got a road over to our right, but then over to our left, you look and you could really be kind of in the middle, not necessarily of nowhere, but you're in the middle of a pretty peaceful, serene place.
It's really a unique ecological respite in the city of Buffalo. I grew up not far from here, and we never came to the Buffalo River, right? There was nowhere to be. So all the land was privately owned, and there was really no good way to access the river to do anything. It was also pretty contaminated, so people weren't coming down here. We were going out to the lake or the Niagara River. So this is really my opportunity now to kind of turn that all around and be like, hey guys, it's a really great place to be, so why don't we come down and enjoy these beautiful sites along the river.
Now, Catherine, you've been involved in this process to get sites constructed and changed and built up over the years. What's this meant to you? What's it mean to see all these sites coming forward, coming to fruition, and watching people use them?
It just has a place in my heart because of just providing people the opportunities, and it's the neighborhoods that we're really trying to bring into these sites. I want to see people walking to these sites and riding their bikes with their fishing poles off the back and just being able to enjoy it. I mean, there's a lot of places you can drive to, but not everybody in the city of Buffalo has the opportunity to drive to these locations, and these are right around the corner, and they have this opportunity to get out of their house. A lot of our streets don't have trees, but these are pockets of just ecological bonanzas, right? So it's just a wonderful experience.
I mean, it is huge. We are a waterfront community. It's incredible, right? We are on the shores of Lake Erie. We have Lake Ontario to the north of us. We are surrounded by water, and everyone, just as like human beings, you want to be near water. Like, we are all somehow innately drawn to water. And so to be able to create spaces where people feel much more comfortable coming to the water, being around the water, kayaking, fishing, just sitting on a bench and watching the water flow by. There's something very, very calming about that. And so it's really exciting to see that as Western New Yorkers, we are reestablishing that relationship with our water, with our waterfront, with all of our local waterways, and starting to take pride in the resource that we have. So overall, it's just really great to see. It's been a long time coming. I think we have this industrial heritage that we're kind of using our waterways as a bit of a dumping ground sometimes, and we've learned from that, right? We've come to understand the importance of the resource that we have in our backyard. From a waterkeeper perspective, it's just really important that we provide that public water access, that we create spaces so people feel comfortable and safe accessing the water. So through the Buffalo Blueway, that's exactly what we've been trying to do, right? How do we create these spaces so that you feel comfortable bringing your kayak here, you feel comfortable just sitting on the bench and taking in the scenery. Just being able to have those moments where you can sort of forget about the day to day, kick back after work, whatever it might be, and just really enjoy our waterfront.
What changes have you seen, Gene, since the Blueway came to be?
Well, so I came here in early 2000s to get my master's in urban and regional planning at University of Buffalo. And at the time, Buffalo was still in a little bit of a downturn. A lot of the industry had left from that was located along the Buffalo River. With that industry leaving, a lot of the population had left as well. And so you could start to tell in the early 2000s that there was some energy in Buffalo, right? People were starting to want to improve the city, want to bring people back to the neighborhoods because all of the infrastructure is here, right? And so there was just you could tell there was just this motivation, this enthusiasm to really kind of bring Buffalo back, to have its rebirth, if you will. And so I was here for a few years. I left. I lived other places, worked other jobs. And then back in 2013, I came back to Buffalo. And it was night and day. Like, I would drive around and just go, oh my goodness, like, this wasn't here when I was here, 13 years ago. This was new. This is new. It was really very eye-opening. And I will say one of the biggest things for me that I recognized was how many people were driving around with kayaks on their car, which never happened when I was here in the early 2000s. Everyone seemed to have a kayak on top of their car. And I was so curious about that because it's just not something I was used to seeing. And it turns out, a lot of it is because of the work that Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper has done over the past 35 years. The Buffalo River is our shining example of bringing back a river that was essentially dead and bringing it back to life, doing various habitat restoration projects along the river, really trying to bring the wildlife back to the river, get the river cleaned up. I mean, all of that is through the Buffalo River Area of Concern, which it was designated as through the EPA. And you could tell just by seeing these kayaks on top of people's cars that they were wanting to get back to the river. They felt comfortable to come back to the water. And that was just so eye-opening for me. I was really kind of taken aback by it. So it's great to see that happening, right? A lot more people now are coming back to Buffalo. They're coming back to Western New York. Maybe they left for school or they left for other jobs. And now they are seeing the value of what we have here. They want to raise their families here. They want to be closer to their own families. And it's really quite like a lovely thing that's happening.
Another big feature of the Blueway, especially the Buffalo River Blueway sites, there's this big metal sign right next to me. Gene, can you describe what I'm looking at here? I've seen them at our other Blueway sites.
This is our Buffalo Blueway marker. So the Buffalo Blueway marker is a harken back to the industrial heritage here in Buffalo. So it's a rusted steel marker where at the top we've got our Blueway logo that's been cut out of the steel, and it's in the shape of a paddle, right? So you think about water, you think about paddling, then you've got the Blueway marker. So we wanted to keep it a little bit industrial looking to kind of keep with the theme of Buffalo and the region. And over time it sort of, the rust kind of changes colors and it's aged well. They age well. So these markers are at every Blueway site. So really the intention with them is first to identify this space as a Buffalo Blueway site. And then if you're out on the water and you see that marker, then you know that it's a spot where you can come, have a rest, maybe have a picnic. And you just the idea is that you start to recognize those markers as Buffalo Blueway.
So we've got this great Buffalo Blueway. We've explored a lot of the sites. We've looked at them. We're going beyond the Buffalo River, right, Catherine? We're moving kind of out there in different spots. What's happening with now the Buffalo Niagara Blueway?
Yes, the Buffalo Niagara Blueway is going to expand from just the Buffalo River core and Outer Harbor all the way up to the city of Tonawanda along the Niagara River. Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper received funding to expand the Buffalo Blueway to the Buffalo Niagara Blueway from funds from the Buffalo and Erie County Greenway Standing Commission. So they allowed us to work with property owners up and down the Niagara River that already have public access sites, but allowing us to install our branded signage on those sites. So we're going to include those in our expanded Blueway footprint, which is going to go then all the way from the Outer Harbor all the way up to the city of Tonawanda. We worked with the city of Tonawanda, state parks, the city of Buffalo, and Erie County to identify locations that they own along the river, which provide wonderful public access already, but may not be very well known to the general public. So we were able to work with them, and we will be installing interpretive signage at those sites in the next month or so. And those sites are really varied depending on where you're located. Some of them do have paddle sport launch access. Some of them are just really great for sitting by the river, taking a look at the birds during the migration, especially in the winter, or just really hanging out and watching the beauty that is the Niagara River.
It's really expanding, I guess, that idea of the ecotourism around what we're calling the Niagara River Lake Erie watershed. We want people out there going to explore, and whether doing a paddle sport type of thing or just hanging out, it's about going and explore. I didn't realize how many were in Grand Island. It's exciting to see what we're putting up there.
Yeah, Grand Island is really a lovely area for nature watching and exploring our watershed. There's some great public access sites that this state park owns along the western shoreline of Grand Island, and just beautiful views. And some areas are just super calm, so they're great for novice paddlers. Others are a little bit more tricky, so our interpretive signage that we put at the sites does indicate some information about what's going to happen if you paddle upstream or downstream, so that people know what they're getting into and what they might be able to see.
We're also Ellicott Creek. There's some signs going along there too, some spots for the Buffalo Niagara Blueway, I believe.
So that's a Erie County owned park. It's a really large park area, and they have a beautiful kayak launch, so we're going to be putting a sign in there so that people know what they'll be able to explore as they paddle downstream on Ellicott Creek.
That's pretty cool, because that's also where we recently did the Bark Park addition. We enhanced the shoreline there to stabilize it, improve water quality flowing in, and a spot where the pooches can kind of go in and not disturb all the new plantings and stuff. So it's nice to have another addition, another feature to the Bark Park area in Ellicott Creek.
Yeah, Bark Park is a dog park located within Ellicott Island Park. The shoreline there was severely eroding just because of natural processes, but also because the dogs were, kind of tearing up the shoreline. So we were able to stabilize the shoreline for native habitat, but also provide an area for the dogs to wade into the water as well. So that project site opened last year, and we're still keeping an eye on it, but it's been very well used so far.
We do want to highlight the fact where some of this funding came from.
Original funding for the Buffalo Blueway came from Empire State Development. The second phase of funding, which we're currently working on to expand into the Buffalo Niagara Blueway, is funding that came from the Buffalo and Erie County Greenway Standing Committee. So Waterkeeper wrote a grant, and we were awarded that funding to install the signs this round, and we also recently received funding from them to do complimentary Blueway markers at each of the sites as well, and also update our Buffalo Niagara Blueway website so that you can plan your trip as you go along.
Well, thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gene.
Thanks, Adam.
Before you go, I just want to remind everyone, Contributions from individuals are what make this work possible, what Waterkeeper is able to do on a day-to-day basis. For every dollar raised, Waterkeeper leverages that tenfold through securing grants and other funding to help deliver over 60 projects and programs each year. Donor dollars support our efforts to research and monitor our waterways, design projects, advocate for good policies, and even construct habitat and access improvements. These efforts in turn create a significant economic and environmental benefit for our community. In some cases, like our Buffalo River restoration, it has been shown to create a 40-to-1 return. So whether you can give $5 or $5,000 or more, please know your dollars stay local, will be multiplied, and will help make change in our waters and community. Thanks again for listening. Be well and do good.